Hello, and welcome to this lecture discussing the endocrine system. My name is Laura McLeod, and I'm an instructor here at Ultimate Medical Academy. In this lecture, we'll be going over all the separate endocrine glands and how they contribute to the endocrine system and the body as a whole. A gland is any organ that produces a secretion. Endocrine glands are organized groups of tissues that use materials from the blood or lymph to make new compounds called hormones. Endocrine glands are also called ductless glands and glands of internal secretion. The hormones are secreted directly into the bloodstream as the blood circulates through the gland. The secretions are transported to all areas of the body. There is another type of gland called an exocrine gland, in which the secretions from the gland must go from a duct. This duct then carries the secretion to a body surface or organ. Exocrine glands include sweat, saliva, lacrimal, and pancreas. Their functions are included in the relevant body systems. One of the endocrine glands, the pancreas, performs as both an exocrine gland and an endocrine gland. The pancreas produces pancreatic juices which go through a duct into a small intestine. The pancreas also has a special group of cells known as islets of Langerhans, which secrete the hormone insulin directly into the bloodstream. The endocrine glands are pictured here throughout the body. This system includes the following glands. There's the pineal, which produces and regulates melatonin. The pituitary, which produces several hormones and is called the master gland because it controls the functions of most other endocrine glands. The thymus, which produces T cells that help in the immune system and help destroy infected or cancerous cells. The thyroid plays a vital role in metabolism, growth, and development of the human body. The parathyroid, it manufactures the parathyroid hormone, which helps regulate our body's level of the minerals calcium and phosphorus. The adrenal gland produces hormones you can't live without, including sex hormones and cortisol. Cortisol helps you deal with stress. The pancreas converts the food we eat into fuel for the body cells. The testes are only found on males. This is responsible for making testosterone and for producing sperm, whereas ovaries are found in female. This is in charge of two main reproductive functions, producing eggs for the female and to produce the reproductive hormones, estrogen and progesterone. A fun fact is that the term hormone comes from the Greek word hormeo, meaning to excite. Hormones are chemical messengers secreted by endocrine glands, with specialized functions in regulating the activities of specific cells, organs, or both. There are three different classes of hormones based on their chemical composition. First, the amines, such as norepinephrine, epinephrine, and dopamine, are derived from single amino acids. Thyroid hormones make up a subset of this class. Peptides and protein hormones consist of 3 to more than 200 amino acid residues. All hormones secreted by the pituitary gland are peptide hormones, as is the leptin found in adipose cells, ghrelin found in the stomach and pancreas, and insulin found in the pancreas. Steroid hormones are converted from their parent compound, cholesterol. Steroid hormones can be grouped into 5 groups by the receptors to which they bind: glucocorticosteroids, mineralocorticosteroids, androgens, estrogens, and progesterones. In various tissues throughout the body, hormone-like chemicals called prostaglandins are secreted. On discovery, it was actually believed that they came from the prostate gland, and that's why they were called prostaglandins. Their activity depends on which tissue secretes them. Some prostaglandins cause constriction of the blood vessels. Others may cause dilation. Prostaglandins can be used to induce labor and cause severe muscular contractions of the uterus. The exact nature and function of prostaglandins are being extensively studied by scientists today. A host of hormones are produced throughout the body. They can originate from many different glands or other organs. Our bodies need to coordinate and integrate all of their functions into one harmonious whole, homeostasis. The maintenance of homeostasis involves growth, maturation, reproduction, and metabolism. Human behavior is actually shaped by the endocrine system and the nervous system working in a unique partnership. The hypothalamus, for example, is with the brain and nervous system. This sends directions via chemical signals to the pituitary, which is part of the endocrine system. The secretions of the pituitary gland then send chemical signals or messengers in the form of hormones, stimulating other endocrine glands to secrete their unique hormones. The hormones thus produced coordinate and direct the activities of target cells and target organs. The major glands of the endocrine system include the pituitary, pineal, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, adrenal, pancreas, and the gonads. The gonads is another name for the ovaries in the female and the testes in the male. Negative feedback actually occurs when there is a drop in blood level of a specific hormone. This drop triggers a chain reaction of responses to increase the amount of hormone in the blood. Negative feedback operates kind of like an air conditioner. The thermostat for the air conditioner is set, right? It's set at a certain temperature, and when the temperature rises above the set temperature, a thermostat sends a signal to turn the air conditioner on. Once the set temperature is reached, the thermostat sends another signal to turn it off. The nervous system controls the glands that are stimulated by nervous stimuli, as in the adrenal medulla. Stimulation of the adrenal medulla is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system. For example, when we are frightened, the adrenal medulla secretes adrenaline. The pituitary gland is a tiny structure about the size of a grape. It is located at the base of the brain within a small bony depression in the sphenoid bone of the skull. The pituitary gland is connected to the hypothalamus by a stalk called the infundibulum. The pituitary gland is divided into an anterior lobe and a posterior lobe. The pituitary gland is known as the master gland because of its major influence on the body's activities. It is even more amazing when you consider the size of this incredible gland. The anterior pituitary lobe secretes the following hormones: the growth hormone, which is responsible for growth and development. This hormone also helps fat be used for energy, saving glucose and helping maintain blood sugar levels. Prolactin hormone, also called lactogenic hormone, develops breast tissue and stimulates the production of milk after childbirth. The function in males is unknown. The thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates the growth and secretion of the thyroid gland. The adrenocorticotropic hormone. This stimulates the growth and secretion of the adrenal cortex. The follicle stimulating hormone stimulates the growth of the graphene follicle and the production of estrogen in females, and stimulates the production of sperm in males. Luteinizing hormone stimulates the growth of the graphene follicle, the production of estrogen, and the formation of the corpus luteum after ovulation, which produces progesterone in the female. LH in the male may also be called the interstitial cell stimulating hormone, ICSH, that is necessary for the production of testosterone by the interstitial cells of the testes in the men. The intermediate pituitary lobe consists of only a few cells, dispersed along the border of the posterior and anterior lobes. These cells produce melanocyte-stimulating hormone, which actually stimulates the melanin cells in the skin. The hormones produced by the hypothalamus are stored in the posterior pituitary lobe. Vasopressin converts to an antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, in the bloodstream. The name vasopressin, however, may be confusing because it causes little or no vasoconstriction. ADH maintains the water balance by increasing the absorption of water in the kidney tubules. Sometimes drugs called diuretics are used to inhibit the action of ADH. The result is an increase in the urinary output and a decrease in blood volume. This decreases blood pressure. Oxytocin is released during childbirth, causing strong contractions of the uterus. It also causes strong contractions when a mother is breastfeeding. A synthetic form of oxytocin, called pitocin, is given to help start labor or make uterine contractions stronger. The thyroid gland is a butterfly-shaped mass of tissue located in the anterior part of the neck. It lies on either side of the larynx, over the trachea. It is about 2 inches long with 2 lobes joined by strands of thyroid tissue called the isthmus. Coming from the isthmus is a finger-like lobe of tissue known as the intermediate lobe. The intermediate lobe actually projects upward toward the floor of the mouth, as far up as the hyoid bone. The thyroid gland has a rich blood supply. In fact, it has been estimated that about 4 to 5 liters of blood actually passes through the gland every hour. The thyroid gland itself secretes 3 hormones: thyroxine, tridothyramine, or T3, and calcitonin. Thyroxine controls the rate of metabolism, heat production, and oxidation of all cells, with the possible exception of the brain and spleen cells. T3 actually plays a role in the body's metabolic rate, heart and digestive functions, muscle control, brain development and function, and the maintenance of the bone. Calcitonin, this controls the calcium ion concentration in the body by maintaining a proper calcium level in the bloodstream. The parathyroid glands usually are 4 in number. These are tiny glands the size of grains of rice. They're attached to the posterior surface of the thyroid gland and secrete the hormone parathormone. Parathormone, like calcitonin, also controls the concentration of calcium in the bloodstream. When the blood calcium level is lower than normal, parathormone secretion is increased. Parathormone stimulates an increase in the number and size of specialized bone cells referred to as osteoclasts. Osteoclasts quickly invade hard bone tissue, digesting large amounts of the bony material containing calcium. As this process continues, calcium leaves the bone and is released into the bloodstream, increasing the calcium blood level. Bone calcium is bonded to the phosphorus in a compound called calcium phosphate. When calcium is released into the bloodstream, phosphorus is released along with it. Parathormone stimulates the kidneys to excrete any excess phosphorus from the blood. At the same time, it inhibits calcium excretion from the kidneys. This causes the concentration of blood calcium to rise. The thymus gland is both an endocrine gland and a lymphatic organ. It is located under the sternum, anterior and superior to the heart. Fairly large during childhood, it begins to disappear at puberty. Research has discovered that the thymus gland secretes a large number of hormones. The major hormone is thymosin, which helps stimulate the lymphoid cells that are responsible for the production of T cells, which fight certain diseases. The thymus gland is critical to the development of the immune system. The two adrenal glands are located on top of each kidney. Each gland has two parts, the cortex and the medulla. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, from the pituitary glands stimulates the activity of the cortex of the adrenal gland. The hormones secreted by the adrenal cortex are known as corticoids. One of the primary functions of the adrenal glands is to control electrolyte levels in the body. The cortex secretes three groups of corticoids, each of which is of great importance. The mineralocorticoids, mainly aldosterone, affect the kidney tubules by speeding up the reabsorption of sodium into the blood circulation and increasing the excretion of potassium from the blood. They also speed up the reabsorption of water by the kidneys. Aldosterone is used to the treatment of Addison's disease to replace deficient secretion of mineralocorticoids. Glucocorticoids, namely cortisone and cortisol, increase the amount of glucose in the blood. This is done by the conversion of proteins and fats to glycogen in the liver, followed by the breakdown of glycogen into glucose. These glucocorticoids also help the body resist the aggravations caused by various everyday stresses. In addition, these hormones seem to decrease edema and inflammation and reduce pain in inhibiting pain-causing prostaglandin. Androgens are male sex hormones that, together with similar hormones from the gonads, bring about masculine characteristics. However, they are present in both men and women. The medulla of the adrenal gland secretes epinephrine, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. Epinephrine is a powerful cardiac stimulant. It functions by bringing about a release of more glucose from stored glycogen for muscle activity and increasing the force and rate of the heartbeat. This chemical activity increases cardiac output and venous return and raises the systolic blood pressure. The adrenal medulla responds to the sympathetic nervous system. The hormones produced are referred to as the fight or flight hormones because they prepare the body for an emergency situation. The gonads, or sex glands, include the ovaries in the female and the testes in the male. The ovary is responsible for producing the ova, or egg, and the hormones estrogen and progesterone. The testes are responsible for producing sperm and the hormone testosterone. The female hormones, as mentioned, are estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen is produced by the Graafian follicle cells of the ovary. It stimulates the development of the reproductive organs, including the breasts and secondary sex characteristics such as pubic and axillary hair. Progesterone is produced by the cells of the corpus luteum of the ovary. Progesterone works with estrogen to build up the lining of the uterus for the fertilized egg. If no fertilization occurs, menstruation takes place. This cycle depends on the secretion of the anterior pituitary gland. Testosterone is produced by the interstitial cells of the testes and is responsible for the development of the male reproductive organs and secondary sex characteristics. Testosterone influences the growth of a beard and other body hair, deepening the voice, increases in musculature, and the production of sperm. The secretion of the hormone depends on the pituitary gland itself. The pancreas is located behind the stomach and functions as both an exocrine and an endocrine gland. The exocrine portion secretes pancreatic juices, which are excreted through a duct into a small intestine. There, they become part of the digestive juices. The endocrine portion is involved in the production of insulin by the B or beta cells of the islet of Langerhans. The islet cells are distributed throughout the pancreas. B cells produce insulin, which promotes the utilization of glucose in the cells, necessary for maintenance of normal levels of blood glucose. It promotes fatty acid transport and fat deposition into cells, promotes amino acid transport into cells, and facilitates the protein synthesis. Lack of insulin secretion by the islet cells causes diabetes mellitus. The A, or alpha cells, contained in the islets of Langerhans secrete the hormone glucagon. The action of glucagon may be antagonistic or opposite to that of insulin. Glucagon's function is to increase the level of glucose in the bloodstream. This is done by stimulating the conversion of liver glucagon to glucose. The control of glucagon secretion is achieved by negative feedback. Low glucose levels in the bloodstream stimulate the A cells to secrete glucagon, which then quickly increases the glucose level in the bloodstream. The pineal gland, or body, is a small pine cone-shaped organ attached by a slim stalk to the roof of the third ventricle in the brain. The hormone produced by the pineal gland is called melatonin. The pineal gland is stimulated by a group of nerve cells called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, located in the brain over the pathway of fibers of the optic nerve. The amount of light entering the eye stimulates the SCN, which then stimulates the pineal gland to release its hormone. The amount of light affects the amount of melatonin secreted. The darker it is, the more melatonin is produced. The lighter it is, the less melatonin is produced. Because winter has longer, darker days, more melatonin is produced, which can lead to a condition known as seasonal affective disorder. This condition produces lethargy, anxiety, and mood disorders. Scientists actually have discovered for those affected with SAD that symptoms disappear when light is introduced. The suggested treatment is bright light exposure for a half an hour to 3 hours a day. There's no clear answers to the function of melatonin. However, melatonin causes body temperature to drop. For example, falling asleep is associated with lowered body temperature, whereas waking up is associated with rising body temperature. I want to thank you for attending this lecture. If you have any further questions regarding this topic, please don't hesitate to reach out to your instructor.